Welcome to Haunted Stories. Yorkshire's folktales embrace an extraordinary cast of saints, shapeshifters and spellweavers, but the county's most celebrated character comes not from these colourful legends, but comes from the little town of Knaresborough. The great prophetess of these parts, known as Mother Shipton, was born as Ursula in 1488 to a 15-year-old in the caves on the bank of the River Nid. An old woman who attended Ursula's birth claimed the smell of sulphur was present, indicating the presence of the devil, and that the newborn child was unusually large and ugly. Despite the strange circumstances surrounding her entry to the world, Ursula was brought up in Knaresborough and acquired a reputation for possessing psychic powers. In 1512 she married a carpenter, Toby Shipton, and began writing prophecies in the form of poetry. Her insistence on only using her powers for good seemed to have savoured her from any accusations of witchcraft, and she died in peace at the age of 73. After her death, the story of Mother Shipton, as she'd become known, and her prophetic poems were passed on through the traditions and through the ages. However, in the 1640s, some of them began to become twisted and greatly exaggerated. Although Samuel Pepys made mention of her in his diaries in connection with a discussion he'd had about her prophecy for the Great Fire of London, he was credited her with the foretelling of almost every significant event in English history in the preceding 200 years, and may have employed her name to help sell his books. Another collection of Mother Shipton's predictions was published in the late 19th century and made such bold claims that her predictive powers led some modern scholars to question whether she existed at all and wasn't some elaborate concoction the townsfolk of Knaresborough put together in order to draw people to the town for tourism. The cave where Mother Shipton is born is still a major tourist attraction, sits on the bank of the River Nid, and is one of the oldest visitor sites in Britain. In Ursula's time, the cave was shunned as a place of magic and a place of where the devil resided, as well as her strange prophecies coming from there. The spring was later discovered to have exceptionally high mineral content, particularly sulphur, which accounts for the smell at the time of her birth, but the mineral also causes any object placed under the waters for any significant amount of time to petrify and turn to rock. The place is now adorned with teddy bears and dolls and all sorts of things hung beneath the waters, all petrified and turned to stone. They're all waiting just for somebody to collect them. Mary Bateman was Yorkshire's other famous witch, and she was a far more questionable character than Mother Shipton, and she was one of the last women to be hung and convicted for witchcraft in Yorkshire. She was born as Mary Harker in or around 1768 near the North Yorkshire town of Thirsk, and she allegedly spent much of her youth in the company of gypsies, learning their rituals, their rites, and of course their curses. She later claimed they instructed her in the arts of soothsaying and herbal medicines, and by the age of 20 she was living in Leeds, ostentiously as a dressmaker, but in reality telling fortunes and making quack remedies for which she earned her horrible reputation. In 1793 she married a simple-minded wheelwright named John. Mary ruled over him, but her husband soon discovered that whatever mystical powers his wife possessed were more than matched by her criminal tendencies. Her favourite tricks included producing eggs from a hen inscribed with the words "Jesus is coming," and then charging her audience a penny just to see these eggs. Not to see the actual laying of them, just the eggs with the writing on. In 1803 she became involved with a wealthy Leeds cloth merchant, William, who believed that his wife Rebecca was possessed by an evil spirit. Having relieved him of 4 golden guineas, Mary then fed the couple with puddings that were later found to be laced with arsenic. Of course, the wife died in agony, and her husband initially believed that Mary's explanation of death was simply being the result of the couple not following her instructions to the letter and not paying her enough. However, when William subsequently discovered that the 4 guinea notes, which Mary claimed to have sewn into his wife's bed linen to have warded off the evil spirits, were in fact cabbage leaves, and the real ones had disappeared, he pressed charges and she went to trial for witchcraft. In 1809, Mary once again tried to talk her way out of trouble, this time by claiming she was pregnant, despite long being separated from her husband John. No one believed her, and she was executed the following day in York Castle, after which her body was given to Leeds Infirmary. The hospital authorities, seizing the opportunity, placed her body on public display and sold pieces of the skin as souvenirs. Both of these witches are still said to wander their areas, Mother Shipton having a kindly aura, wandering the caves, just occasionally seen as a white ethereal spirit. Mary, however, is well known on the ghost walks of York. She howls away up and down the shambles, and her screams are heard long into the night in some of York.